Owain, a young fisherman in a quiet Welsh village, ignored the warnings of an old man about the Llamhigyn y Dŵr, a frog-like creature said to haunt the lake. Confident and unafraid, he rowed his boat far out one morning, casting his nets deep. Suddenly, his boat lurched. From the water, a hideous creature with leathery wings and glowing yellow eyes burst forth, screeching as it leapt at him. In a panic, Owain remembered his father's old trick. He threw salt into the water. The beast thrashed and disappeared beneath the waves. Shaken, Owain never ventured far again, and the villagers offered salt to the lake, fearing the water leaper's return. Llamhigyn y Dŵr, also known as water leaper, is a malicious creature from Welsh folklore that lived in swamps, ponds and rivers. It was said to be a giant, limbless frog or toad with a bat's membranous wings and a long, reptilian tail with a large stinger at the tip. It leapt across the water using its wings, hence its name. Its favorite prey were fish, poor sheep who wandered too close to the water's edge, or even fishermen. It was said that its appearance alone was to strike one dead, never mind its venomous stinger or blood-curdling screech. It was said to shriek, which stunned its prey, leap up from the water and snap the fishing line of fishermen, dragging the poor soul into the water's abyss, only to be speedily engulfed by a malignant, and quite insatiable, maw. Ira, a young girl from the Shetland Islands, struggled to catch fish for her ailing father. One evening, she spotted a strange figure, a Wulver, a wolf-headed man, fishing silently across the river. Instead of fleeing, she watched in awe as the Wulver caught trout and left several on her side of the bank. Night after night, it left fish for her family, never asking for anything in return. Grateful, Ira left bread by the river, and though she never saw the Wulver again, its quiet kindness fed her family through the hardest times. The Wulver is a kind of humanoid wolf that is said to live on the Shetland Islands. Unlike werewolves, it does not shape-shift. It seems different from other werewolves as he is gentle and known for helping people. It lives alone in a cave and fishes. You can see him fishing on top of a rock called the Wulver Stone. He is also seen helping travelers find their way to towns and cities. For poor families, he always puts fish onto their windowsill. If a family is mourning a loss, he can be seen paying his respects outside their house. After researching folklore traditions gathered primarily from Gaelic areas of Scotland, Susan Schoon Eberly has speculated that the tale of the Wulver may have its basis in humans suffering a medical condition, possibly Hunter syndrome, she suggests. This theoretical basis of Wulver lore has been criticized as not useful, or especially reliable, particularly given a lack of any surviving detailed description of the Wulver, the malleable and shifting nature of oral traditions, and the existence of other mythological creatures in many folklore traditions. One foggy night, Thomas cycled down Slough Hill Lane, ignoring the old legends. As the mist thickened, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw a monstrous figure, half dog, half monkey, its glowing eyes fixed on him. Panicked, Thomas pedaled faster, but the Shug monkey was closing in. Just as it seemed ready to strike, a distant church bell rang. The creature vanished into the fog, leaving Thomas trembling and vowing never to take that path at night again. In the folklore of Cambridgeshire, the Shug monkey is a creature that shares features of a dog and monkey, which reportedly haunted Slough Hill Lane. The creature, believed to have the body of a jet-black shaggy sheepdog and the face of a monkey with staring eyes, was believed to be a supernatural ghost or demon. Local writer and broadcaster James Wentworth Day, who first related stories of the Shug monkey in Here Are Ghosts and Witches, in 1954, described it as a curious variation of Black Shuck, while local folklorist Polly Howitt suggests that both share common origins in Norse mythology. According to Howitt, sightings of the Shug monkey have not been reported since before World War II. Emma stayed outside after dark, despite the village tales of the Nachtkrapp, a fearsome, raven-like creature. As the moon disappeared behind clouds, a dark figure appeared in the sky, its glowing eyes fixed on her. Terrified, Emma raced inside just as the creature swooped down. It vanished into the night, leaving her shaken. From then on, she heeded the warnings, never venturing out after dark again. The Nachtkrapp is a terrifying creature from German and Austrian folklore, often depicted as a monstrous, bird-like figure associated with the night. Its name translates to night raven in English, though its form and attributes can vary depending on the region. In most tales, the Nachtkrapp is a large, dark bird, resembling a crow or raven, with sinister glowing eyes. It is typically portrayed as a creature that preys on misbehaving children, swooping down at night to carry them away if they venture outside after dark. In some versions of the legend, the Nachtkrapp is a symbol of death or doom, much like the Grim Reaper, and its appearance is said to be an omen of bad fortune or even death. Parents often use the story of the Nachtkrapp to scare children into behaving or staying indoors at night, warning that the creature would snatch them away if they disobeyed. Young hunter Kofi sought the legendary Abada, a magical creature with a single horn. After days in the jungle, he found it in a hidden glade, its horn glowing softly. Approaching carefully, Kofi felt a deep sense of peace as their eyes met. The Abada vanished into the mist, leaving Kofi with newfound wisdom. He returned to his village, where his story inspired prosperity and harmony. Abada is one of the names given to a supposed unicorn living in Africa. Giovanni Cavazzi, when traveling in Portuguese Angola, heard about a creature similar to a horse but larger and having a head similar to a deer. It had two horns, one on the forehead and another on the nose, both of them of great virtue. He also mentions another creature called Abada, which is the African cousin of a true rhinoceros and has three horns, on the nose, on the forehead and on the back. Girolamo Merola also writes about the unicorn called Abada living in Congo. It is the size of an ox, but has only one horn on the forehead. Young Angus ventured to a remote pond, where a sleek, black horse awaited. Drawn by its beauty, he climbed onto its back. Instantly, the horse turned cold and slimy. It was a Kelpie. As the Kelpie plunged into the water, Angus remembered the old tales about iron. He grabbed his iron belt buckle and pressed it against the creature. The Kelpie shrieked and vanished into the depths, freeing Angus. He hurried back to the village, forever wary of the pond and the Kelpie's treacherous lure. In mythology, the Kelpie is described as a strong and powerful horse. Its skin was said to be like that of a seal, smooth but as cold as death when touched. They were said to transform into beautiful women to lure men into their traps. They created illusions to keep themselves hidden, keeping only their eyes above water to scout the surface. The fable of the Kelpie varies by region. The water horse is a common form of the Kelpie, said to lure humans into the water to drown them. The water horse would encourage people to ride on its back, and once its victims fell into its trap, the water horse's skin would become adhesive and the horse would bear the victim into the river, dragging them to the bottom of the water and devouring them, except the heart or liver. A common Scottish tale is the story of 9 children lured onto a Kelpie's back, while a 10th kept his distance. The Kelpie chased the 10th child, but he escaped. Another more macabre variation on this tale is that the 10th child simply stroked the Kelpie's nose, but, when his hand stuck to it, he took a knife from his pocket and cut his own hand off, cauterizing it with wood from a nearby fire. Lost in the Basque Mountains, traveler Marta sought shelter in an old village as a storm rolled in. During the night, a fearsome figure with red eyes and horns, the Aatxe, appeared. Instead of attacking, the Aatxe roared and pointed toward a path through the forest. Understanding its guidance, Marta followed the path through the storm and safely found her way out. Grateful, she returned home, sharing her tale of the Aatxe's unexpected help and the respect it deserved. Adze is a spirit in the folk mythology of the Basque people. His name is literally translated as young bull. He is a cave-dwelling spirit who adopts the form of a young red bull, but being a shapeshifter, sometimes takes the shape of a man. At night, more so in stormy weather, he arises from the hollow which is his lair. He attacks criminals and other malevolent people. He also protects people by making them stay home when danger is near. He is theorized to be a representative of the goddess Mari, or may be an enforcer of her will, punishing people who cheat her. It is believed Adze inhabited caves and hollows. In many engravings and paintings depicting aurochs and oxen have been found, which implies that this Basque myth has its origins in the Paleolithic. Scholar Ilara ventured into a misty swamp to find the legendary Catoblepas. After days of searching, she saw the fearsome beast with its deadly gaze. To avoid its petrifying stare, Ilara used a mirror to observe from a safe distance. She quickly took her notes and sketches before retreating from the swamp. Her findings on the Catoblepas became famous, but she always remembered the danger lurking in that shadowed gaze. The Catoblepas is a legendary creature from Ethiopia, first described by Pliny the Elder and later by Claudius Aelianus. One known description of the creature is said to resemble a Cape buffalo, with its head always pointing downwards due to its great weight. Its stare or breath could either turn people into stone or kill them. It is often thought to be based on real-life encounters with wildebeest, such that some dictionaries say that the word is synonymous with new. Other depictions have it sporting the head of a hog and the body of a Cape buffalo. Encantado are water cryptids that live in the Amazon. They are basically dolphin men or were-dolphins, usually living as a boto cor de rosa. They are considered friends of fishermen in the Amazonian region, and helps with fishing and safely conducting canoes during storms. Some say they have power over storms. They are also said to help those who are drowning, removing them from the river. According to local folklore, every year at Festa Junina, this cryptid shapeshifts from a pink river dolphin into a young man in white garments, but they have to wear a hat of some kind to conceal their unchanged blowhole. These festive nights are the most dangerous time to see or be near Encantado, as they attend parties and balls where they seduce, kidnap, and impregnate young women. The Encantado are notorious for their shape-shifting ability. They say that if you meet a handsome stranger at a festival, that it is more than likely an Encantado. Not only they are cryptids but they are mythical creatures too. Encantados may be a species of hybrid dolphin, although human and dolphin reproduction is not possible. One day, a curious boy named Ivan wandered too deep into the forest despite the villagers' warnings about Leshy, the forest guardian. Lost and frightened, Ivan soon encountered a tall figure with eyes like emeralds and a beard of leaves, Leshy himself. It asked, "Why have you entered my forest?" Ivan stammered, "I didn't mean any harm." Seeing the boy's sincerity, Leshy smiled and pointed. A path opened through the trees. "Follow this and you'll find your way." Ivan hurried home, and as he turned to thank Leshy, the guardian had already vanished into the shadows. A Leshy is a Slavic forest spirit from the Dictionnaire Infernal. He protects animals, birds, and trees, appearing as a human-like figure with blue skin, green hair, and horns. To thwart him, one must turn their clothes inside out and wear their shoes on the wrong feet. It can shapeshift and often looks like a peasant with glowing eyes and backward shoes. Befriending a Leshy grants access to magical secrets, and farmers made pacts with him for protection. Known for mischievous tricks, Leshy can lead people astray, steal tools, or even tickle people to death. He can also imitate familiar voices to lure wanderers. Though not evil, it enjoys causing confusion but also protects cattle from getting lost. Sometimes multiple Leshys fight over territory, causing chaos in the forest. One night, a brave boy named Mateo snuck out to prove the village tales of the Sigbin were false. In the woods, he encountered the creature, a hunched figure with bat-like ears and glowing red eyes, walking backward. Terrified, Mateo whispered a prayer as the Sigbin crept closer. It paused, sniffed the air, then retreated into the shadows. Mateo ran home, never questioning the stories again. The Sigbin is a mythical creature in Philippine folklore, said to emerge at night to suck blood from its victims' shadows. It walks backward with its head between its hind legs and can turn invisible, especially to humans. Resembling a hornless goat, it has large ears that clap like hands and a long tail used as a whip, while emitting a foul odor. It is believed to come out during Holy Week, hunting children for their hearts to make into amulets. Some families are said to control Sigbins and keep them in clay jars. The Aswang, another mythical creature, is also rumored to keep them as pets alongside birds like the wak-wak. There is speculation that Sigbin sightings could be based on real animals, possibly related to kangaroos. The discovery of the cat fox in Borneo, with longer hind legs, has led some to believe it could be the source of the Sigbin legend. Lila ventured deep into the forest and met a tall, mysterious man who offered to guide her. As they walked, she noticed him slowly transforming, his legs lengthened, and his face turned into that of a horse. Realizing he was a Tikbalang, Lila quickly tied a vine loop and threw it around his neck. Startled, the Tikbalang calmed and spoke, I only wanted to test your courage. You've tamed me." In gratitude, it transformed into a white stallion and safely led her out of the forest, showing her that not all Tikbalangs mean harm. The Tikbalang is a creature from Philippine folklore, often found in mountains and forests. It is described as a tall, bony humanoid with long limbs and the head and feet of a horse. Some believe Tikbalangs are transformed spirits of aborted fetuses. They are known to scare and confuse travelers, making them walk in circles, unless they wear their shirts inside out or ask permission to pass. In Rizal province, they are seen as benevolent guardians of elemental kingdoms, often standing near large trees. There's a saying that rain during a sunny day means a Tikbalang is getting married. They can transform into humans or become invisible, and are believed to dwell under bridges or near groves and large trees. Long ago, a young nobleman named John Lambton skipped church to go fishing in the river Ware. He caught a strange, slimy creature resembling an eel, but disgusted by it, he threw it into a well and forgot about it. Over the years, the creature grew into a massive, serpent-like worm, terrorizing the countryside, coiling itself around a hill and devouring livestock. Upon returning from a pilgrimage, John found his village in ruins and learned that the creature was his doing. Seeking help, he was advised by a wise woman to fight the worm, but she warned him that after killing it, he must sacrifice the first living thing he saw to avoid a family curse. John covered himself in spiked armor and bravely battled the worm in the river. The spikes tore into the creature as it tried to crush him, and after a fierce struggle, he defeated it. However, when the battle was over, his father rushed to greet him before the planned sacrifice of a dog. Because of this, the Lambton family was cursed, and many of its descendants met tragic ends. A brave hunter named Darius sought the terrifying Manticore, a creature with the body of a lion, the face of a man, and a venomous tail. After hearing tales of its deadly attacks on villagers, Darius ventured into the forest. At dusk, the Manticore appeared, lunging at him with its deadly tail. Quickly, Darius climbed a tree to avoid its strikes. From above, he hurled his spear, piercing the beast. The Manticore fell, ending its reign of terror, and Darius returned home a hero. Originally documented in Persia, the feared man-eating Manticore has said to have been sighted in places as varied as the jungles of Brazil and Indonesia. It is described as having the head of a human, body of a lion and a tail of poisonous spines, similar to porcupine quills. There are some recounts that the spines can be shot like arrows, thus making the Manticore a lethal predator. It eats its victims whole, using its triple rows of teeth, and leaves no bones behind. A Manticore's face is said to resemble a human's, and travelers through marshes have reported mistaking a Manticore for a bearded man from a distance. They have a melodious call, like the lower notes on a flute blown together with a trumpet. Despite the beauty of the sound, most animals know to flee when they hear it. Humans would do well to follow their lead. One foggy night in Wisconsin, a young woman named Sarah was driving along Bray Road. As she turned a bend, her headlights caught something on the side of the road, tall, furry and with glowing eyes. It looked like a massive wolf standing on two legs, its muscular body covered in dark fur. Terrified, Sarah slammed on the brakes. The creature turned its head toward her, its sharp teeth glinting in the dim light. For a moment, it stood still, staring at her, before suddenly charging toward her car. Panicking, she sped away, her heart racing as she left the beast of Bray Road behind. The beast of Bray Road is a hairy, humanoid creature with canine features, sighted near Dullahan and Elkhorn, mainly in 1990. It has been labeled a werewolf in local folklore, though some cryptozoologists prefer to classify it as a type of Bigfoot or cryptid canine. It is one of the most famous modern American werewolf legends, inspiring media coverage and even a low-budget film. Due to numerous eyewitness reports, there is more evidence for the beast of Bray Road than other werewolf legends. However, mainstream cryptozoologists usually avoid the idea of shapeshifters, preferring more rational explanations. Some believe the sightings are of an escaped pet wolf, a large dog or even a bear. A retired teacher from Elkhorn shared a bizarre story of finding roadkill that was mysteriously moved or dissected, suggesting the involvement of the beast. After setting up cameras, he claimed to witness strange lights and mist, and found unusual tracks. Some speculate the creature could be a bear with mange, but black bears are uncommon in southern Wisconsin, and mange is not typical in Wisconsin bears. This mystery remains unsolved, with various theories swirling around the sightings. One cold night, a fisherman, got lost in the Alaskan woods. Hearing a baby's cry, he followed the sound, only to find an otter watching him by the river. As he approached, the otter transformed into a Kushtaka, a sinister creature from the legends. Before Aluk could escape, the Kushtaka mimicked his loved one's voices, disorienting him. Paralyzed with fear, he was caught. The Kushtaka stole his soul, transforming him into one of them. Aluk was never seen again. Now, locals say his cries echo through the forest, warning others of the fate that awaits those who cross paths with the Kushtaka. In many stories, the Kushtaka save lost individuals by distracting them with otter-like illusions of their family and friends as they transform their subject into a fellow Kushtaka, thus allowing him to survive in the cold. In other legends it is said it will imitate the cries of a baby or the screams of a woman to lure victims to the river. Once there, it either kills the person and tears them to shreds or will turn them into another Kushtaka. As the Kushtaka mainly preys on small people, it is thought to be a legend used by Tlingit mothers to stop their children from wandering close to the ocean by themselves. Kongamatos are large pterosaur-like cryptids living in tropical and subtropical regions of Africa. It resembles a pastiche of folkloric flying monsters. Its name means breaker of boats, as the Kongamatos are said to have capsized the canoes of natives and attacked people who ventured too close to the nearby rivers. It is described as a reddish lizard with membranous wings and teeth in its beak. When shown an image of a pterosaur, natives said that it was a picture of a Kongamato. The accounts told of these creatures are similar to the ones that describe the ropen of Papua New Guinea, as well as with several other creatures. There are several historic reports of European explorers being attacked by large winged creatures, and quite often people were reported to have received wounds from the Kongamatos. It is thought to eat mostly fish, but occasionally humans. The Kongamato is also said to dig up graves and steal human corpses, because in Africa the burial is usually not too deep. It is interesting to note that a good portion of modern Kongamato sightings happen in a prime birdwatching site, and yet birdwatchers never report anything, indicating that the Kongamato may in fact be a case of mistaken identity. One of the earliest reports of the Kongamatos is from traveler Frank Melland. It is depicted in his 1932 book In Witchbound Africa. The Nain rouge is a legendary creature from Detroit, Michigan, whose appearance is said to foretell misfortune. It is believed to originate from both Norman French tales of the Luton and Native American legends of an impish creature linked to the stone god. The legend might also stem from a Native American idol called the Manitou, destroyed by French missionaries in 1670, leading to a curse on the region. Described as a dwarf with red fur or a red face, sharp teeth, and blazing red eyes, the Nain rouge has been linked to several tragedies in Detroit's history. One such event was the Battle of Bloody Run in 1763, where it was seen dancing among corpses after 58 British soldiers were killed by Chief Pontiac's Ottawa warriors. It was said that the Detroit River turned red with blood afterward. The Nain rouge is also blamed for the misfortunes of General William Hull, whose failures led to the surrender of Detroit in the War of 1812. Sightings of the Nain rouge are thought to be an omen of disaster for the city, reinforcing its reputation as a harbinger of bad luck. Abaia is a huge, magical eel in Melanesian mythology. According to Melanesian mythology, it is a type of large eel which dwells at the bottom of freshwater lakes in the Fiji, Solomon, and Vanuatu Islands. The Abaia is said to consider all creatures in the lake its children and protects them furiously against anyone who would harm or disturb them. It is said that those who are foolish enough to try to catch the fish from a lake containing the Abaia are immediately overwhelmed by a large wave caused by the thrashing of the Abaia's powerful tail. Another version of the legend states that if someone were to harm a creature living in the Abaia's home, it would cause a great rainstorm, flooding the land and drowning those who had caused the harm. Although it would seem that the magical powers of the Abaia are the byproduct of human imagination and its fear of the unknown, it has been suggested that the Abaia legend may have stemmed from encounters with an actual undiscovered species of giant eel living at the bottom of these remote lakes. The Banaspati is a mysterious entity sighted in many villages across Indonesia since ancient times. This entity is described as a humanoid with red skin and sharp horns, quite similar to Satan in Western culture. In many stories it was also described as a skull with fireballs hovering around it. This type is also called a kimamang. They can also appear as floating fire. It is known to appear in dark places, where it scares away passing people, and it is believed that the Banaspati feeds on the anger and emotions of its victims. The Banaspati is believed to live in a tree and appear unexpectedly in front of passing travelers or locals. In some Indonesian villages it is not uncommon for the local farmers to work all night and return to their homes when the dark starts to fade. At this time a lot of Banaspati sightings are reported. The Banaspati is a dangerous entity because it can spout fireballs and burns everything surrounding it. People who meet the Banaspati must run away to the closest mushala and pray while still running. There are also people who believe Banaspati sightings are a result of santet sent by a human to harm other people. Its sightings were never reported to the mass media, but through word-of-mouth stories or personal experiences. Until nowadays sightings of the dangerous Banaspati are still reported. Rakshasas are formidable beings from Hindu mythology, often depicted as malevolent demons or spirits with supernatural abilities. They are known for their fearsome appearance, which can include fanged mouths, long claws, and sometimes multiple heads. These creatures are said to possess the power to change shape at will, allowing them to take on various forms, including that of humans or animals. Originating from ancient Indian texts like the Vedas and the Ramayana, Rakshasas are considered to be enemies of the gods and protectors of evil. They are notorious for their cunning and trickery, frequently using their shape-shifting abilities to deceive and terrorize humans. In many stories, Rakshasas are associated with dark magic and have the ability to cast powerful illusions. Despite their malevolent nature, Rakshasas are not always mindless beasts. Some are portrayed as intelligent and strategic, capable of planning complex schemes to achieve their goals. Their primary motivation often involves disrupting the divine order and creating chaos in the world. Lamashtu's father was the sky god Anu. Unlike many other usual demonic figures and depictions in Mesopotamian lore, it was said to act in malevolence of her own accord, rather than at the god's instructions. Along with this her name was written together with the cuneiform determinative indicating deity. This means she was a goddess or a demigoddess in her own right. She bore 7 names and was described as 7 witches in incantations. Her evil deeds included slaying children, unborns, and neonates, causing harm to mothers and expectant mothers, eating men and drinking their blood, disturbing sleep, bringing nightmares, killing foliage, infesting rivers and lakes, and being a bringer of disease, sickness, and death. Pazuzu, a god or demon, was invoked to protect birthing mothers and infants against Lamashtu's malevolence, usually on amulets and statues. Although Pazuzu was said to be bringer of famine and drought, he was also invoked against evil for protection, and against plague, but he was primarily and popularly invoked against his fierce, malicious rival Lamashtu. In the Sumerian mythological poem Lugali, Asag is a monstrous demon, so hideous that his presence alone makes fish boil alive in the rivers. He was said to be accompanied into battle by an army of rock demon offspring born of his union with the mountains themselves. Asag is often depicted as a terrifying demon with a grotesque appearance. In some depictions, he is portrayed with a monstrous face, resembling a combination of various dreadful features. It is associated with darkness and malevolence. He is said to have the power to bring disease and destruction. His influence is believed to cause suffering and calamities. In Mesopotamian mythology, Asag is frequently mentioned in relation to other deities and mythological narratives. He is sometimes depicted as an enemy of the gods or as a chaotic force that disrupts the divine order. Asag appears in myths involving deities like the storm god Ninurta, who battles against him. The stories often involve Ninurta overcoming Asag in order to restore balance and order. In a dark forest near Leicester, the dreaded Black Anis lived in a shadowy cave. Known for her ghastly appearance and sharp claws, she preyed on those who ventured too close. One evening, a curious boy named Thomas, doubting the tales, ventured into her woods. He discovered Black Anis in her cave, weaving a macabre tapestry from the fur and bones of her victims. Terrified, Thomas turned to flee, but Anis's chilling voice echoed as she lunged toward him. He ran through the forest, heart pounding, and barely escaped. Thomas never returned, and the villagers continued to warn of Black Anis, the witch who lurked in the shadows, ready to snatch any who dared to enter her domain. Black Anis is a fearsome figure in English folklore. Described as a blue-faced hag with iron claws, she haunts the Leicestershire countryside. Her home is a cave in the Dane Hills, marked by a large oak tree. At night, she preys on children and lambs, tanning their skins and wearing them around her waist. Black Anis is known for reaching into houses to snatch people, and her legend served as a warning for children to behave. According to tradition, when she ground her teeth, it was a signal for people to lock their doors and secure their windows. Cottages were built with small windows to prevent her from reaching inside. The earliest reference to Black Anis appears in an 18th century title deed. Some theories suggest she might have origins in Celtic or Germanic mythology, or even be based on a historical figure named Agnes Scott. Ronald Hutton proposed that Black Anis could be a distorted memory of Scott, an Anchoress. The story may have evolved from local rituals or fears, and Black Anis was sometimes depicted as a monstrous cat. A tradition involved dragging a dead cat in front of her cave to celebrate the end of winter, a custom that faded by the late 18th century. The Penanggalan is a vampiric entity from Malay ghost myths, depicted as a disembodied floating head with trailing organs and entrails. It appears as a glowing ball of flame at night, resembling a will-o'-the-wisp. Its name derives from the Malay word tangle, meaning to remove, reflecting its headless form. This creature is not a classic undead being but a witch who attains this form through meditation in a vat of vinegar. By day, the Penanggalan is an ordinary woman, but by night, she hunts for menstruation blood, pregnant women, and children. The Penanggalan is known for its vinegar smell and returns to its body by day, leaving behind its disembodied head. Victims include pregnant women and young children, whom the Penanggalan preys upon, often hiding under stilt houses to reach them. Protective measures include scattering thorny mengkuang leaves around homes, using glass shards on walls, and keeping scissors or beetle nut cutters under pillows. If the Penanggalan's head is prevented from reattaching to its body, it can be destroyed by filling the neck cavity with broken glass or by cremation. Another method to reveal the Penanggalan is to turn the body over, exposing its true nature. The Gashadokuro is a giant skeleton yokai made from the bones of people who died in battle or from starvation. Towering over 10 meters tall, it has glowing eyes, typically described as yellow or green. It roams at night, especially around 2 a.m., hunting humans to eat. As it approaches, it can create a loud clattering sound with its teeth but is also known to move stealthily when stalking prey. It is said to be invisible and indestructible, though Shinto charms can ward it off. The Gashadokuro continues its rampage until its rage subsides, at which point it crumbles. The first recorded Gashadokuro appeared in the 10th century. After the samurai Taira no Masakado was killed during a rebellion, his daughter Taki Yashahime, a sorceress, created the Gashadokuro from the bones of fallen soldiers. She unleashed it on Kyoto to avenge her father's death. The skeleton monster terrorized the city until Masakado's head was moved to what is now Tokyo, where his grave still exists today. The Grootslang is a legendary cryptid that is reputed to dwell in a deep cave in the Richtersveld, South Africa. According to legend, the Grootslang is a primordial creature as old as the world itself. Tales state that gods, new to the crafting of things, made a terrible mistake in the Grootslang's creation, and gave it tremendous strength, cunning and intellect. Realizing their mistake, the gods split the Grootslang into separate creatures and thus created the first elephants and the first snakes. But one of the original Grootslangs escaped, and from this first sire all other Grootslangs were born. It is claimed to devour elephants by luring them into its cave. According to local legend, the cave is filled with diamonds. It is also said to live in warm rivers and lakes. In Benin, it is said to be a huge elephant-like creature with a serpent's tail. Sometimes, it is depicted as a snake with orange gems for eyes. Also, according to the tale, Grootslangs covet gems, particularly diamonds, and despite the creature's lust for cruelty, victims can often bargain for their freedom by offering a Grootslang enough precious gems. While searching for treasure in the Richtersveld of South Africa in 1917, English businessman Peter Grayson disappeared after members of his party were attacked and injured by lions, prompting legends that the Grootslang had killed him. One misty night, Liam wandered alone through the Irish countryside when the sound of galloping hooves broke the silence. From the shadows, a headless rider on a black horse appeared, the Dullahan, the bringer of death. Holding its grinning skull aloft, the Dullahan's horse eyes glowed as it raised a whip made of human spine. Liam tried to flee, but the whip lashed out, dragging him down. The rider's burning eyes met his, sealing his fate. With a final crack, the Dullahan claimed his soul, leaving only the eerie silence behind. By dawn, Liam had vanished without a trace. The Dullahan is a headless horseman, often depicted on a black horse. Sometimes, he carries his own severed head, which is grotesque with ashen skin, fiery eyes, and a wide, sharp-toothed grin. His flesh is said to resemble moldy cheese. The Dullahan is also associated with a ghostly headless coach, driven by the Dullahan through graveyards, foreshadowing death. The coach is said to be made from human bones, with skulls as lanterns. It is rumored to pass silently, although some describe its eerie rumbling. The Dullahan arrives at the doorstep of those whose death is near, bringing misfortune. Legend says that if someone opens their door to the coach, they might be splashed with blood. However, it's believed that golden objects can make the Dullahan disappear. A modern commentator stated that the Dullahan has the ability to see with the severed head and can use it to scan the countryside for mortals about to die. In contrast, the headless coach in the tale, The Harvest Dinner, is described as a blind, and Croker assumed he lacks sight. The Adze is a vampiric creature from the legends of the Yu people in southern Togo. It can transform into harmless insects, such as a firefly, to stealthily feed on its victims. The Adze has a particular craving for children's blood, especially infants, though it can also consume palm oil and coconut water. While it can survive without killing, if denied blood for too long, the Adze becomes dangerously ravenous, leaving survivors with deadly diseases. When captured, the Adze reverts to human form, losing its magical abilities. Some human sorcerers can willingly become possessed by an Adze spirit for power, gaining the ability to shapeshift. However, once the Adze is caught, its human form must be destroyed to kill it. There is no known defense against an Adze, and no barrier can keep it from attacking children. The only solution is to capture it and destroy the human form. Keeping a village's coconut water and palm oil supply full may help deter it, but setting traps is the most effective defense. Maria heard a baby crying in the forest and followed the sound to find a frail, abandoned infant wrapped in rags. As she picked up the child, its face transformed into a grotesque, toothy grin. The Tiyanak attacked, its sharp fangs piercing her neck. Maria's screams filled the woods before fading into silence. By morning, only bloodstains remained, and the Tiyanak, now looking like an innocent baby again, waited for its next victim. Various speculations on how Tiyanaks came to be range from babies born dead in the forest to the Catholic-influenced unbaptized stillborn infants, and later extended to vengeful murdered infants and aborted fetuses. Belief in the Tiyanak may have originated from the Patiyanak of the Mandaya tribe in Mindanao, when Islam started to spread north before the arrival of the Spanish. Interestingly, it could also be possible that belief in the Tiyanak might have been influenced if not introduced by Spanish missionaries, especially those from Mexico, who were intent on converting the natives into Catholics. With the exception of the Tiyanak's ability to disguise itself as a baby, some striking similarities with the Shug from Aztec mythology suggest a possible link between the two creatures. Tom, a weary traveler, camped beneath an ancient fig tree in the Australian outback. As he prepared his meal, he noticed a small, red, frog-like creature with unsettling eyes watching him from the branches. That night, Tom felt an eerie presence and awoke to find the Yara-ma-yha-who hovering above him. Its mouth stretched wide, revealing a maw ready to drain his blood. Paralyzed with fear, Tom felt his strength ebbing away as the creature fed. With his last ounce of consciousness, he saw the fig tree's dark, mocking branches above him. By morning, Tom's camp was abandoned, and the only sign of his fate was the fig tree swaying gently in the wind, hiding the Yara-ma-yha-who's satisfied grin. It resembles a little red frog-like man or woman, about 40 centimeters tall, with red hair and skin. It has an enlarged mouth with no teeth. It has suckers on the tips of its fingers that it uses to suck the blood out of its victims, which are usually people. It can unhinge its jaw like a snake. Its method of attack is clever and scores at unlucky humans. It drops down from trees, usually fig trees, onto the person, then grabs the human's arm and uses the suckers on its fingers to suck up the blood before running away. It later returns and eats the victim whole and vomits it out for an easy meal the next time. It could be an unknown variety of tarsia, a primate from Southeast Asia, with fingers that have an appearance resembling suction cups. There are some problems with that theory, as tarsiers are relatively harmless, and far smaller than the Yara-ma-yha-who. They also do not live in Australia as far as we know. In traditional Japanese beliefs, every person has a spirit called a Raikan that leaves the body upon death and enters a form of purgatory. If the proper funeral rites are performed, the Raikan joins its ancestors and protects the living family. However, if someone dies violently or their rites are neglected, their spirit may become a Yurei, a restless ghost. Yurei are often driven by unresolved emotions or unfinished business, and they can haunt the living until these issues are addressed. Yurei typically appear in white burial clothing, with long, disheveled hair, and float above the ground. They may be accompanied by eerie, floating flames called hitodama. Their haunting time is usually around 2 a.m., when the veil between the living and dead is thinnest. Historically, its appearances became standardized in ukiyo-e prints and kabuki theater. Notable examples of Yurei include Okiku, the ghost of a servant counting missing plates, and Oiwa, a vengeful spirit associated with tragic betrayal. Famous hauntings attributed to Yurei include Himeji Castle's well and Aokigahara Forest. These stories have shaped Japanese folklore and continue to influence cultural art and practices. How Magoroku was deceived by a Joragumo relates the story of Magoroku dozing in his veranda in Takata. As he was about to doze off, a woman in her 50s appeared. She said that her daughter had taken a fancy to Magoroku and invited him to her estate. There, a 16 or 17-year-old girl asked him to marry her. Already married, he declined, but the girl persisted. She claimed that he had almost killed her mother 2 days before, and yet she still visited him, and surely, he could not let her feelings come to nothing. Bewildered, Magoroku fled. The house disappeared as he ran and he found himself back on his own porch. Magoroku's wife then assured him that he had been sleeping on the veranda the whole time. Concluding it was only a dream, Magoroku looked around and noticed a small Joro spider that had made a tight web around the eaves. Relieved, he recalled how he drove away a spider 2 days before. Joragumo is a type of yokai, a creature of Japanese folklore. It can shapeshift into a beautiful woman, so the kanji that represent its actual meaning are woman spider. Faris, a humble merchant, was resting beneath the stars in the vast Arabian desert when he heard a whisper on the wind. Emerging from the shadows was a jinn named Malik, his form flickering like fire. "I can answer one question truthfully," the jinn offered. Faris thought carefully and asked, "How can a man live a peaceful life?" The jinn smiled, impressed. "Peace comes from contentment, kindness, and walking away from conflict." Before disappearing into the night, the jinn added, "Remember, peace is a choice you make every day." Faris never forgot the lesson, and it guided him for the rest of his life. Jinn are spiritual beings in Islam and Arabic folklore, mentioned in the Quran and other Islamic texts. They inhabit an unseen world, existing in dimensions beyond human perception. Along with humans and angels, they are one of the three sapient creations of God. Unlike angels, jinn are made from smokeless, scorching fire, and possess free will, allowing them to be good, evil, or neutral. This gives them the ability to act on, and be affected by, the physical world. The Quran frequently references jinn, with Surah 72 specifically named Surat al-Jinn, detailing their existence. According to Islamic belief, the Prophet Muhammad was sent as a messenger to both humans and jinn. A mosque, Masjid al-Jinn, was built in memory of Muhammad's encounters with them. Though typically invisible to humans, jinn live in their own communities and can travel vast distances at great speeds. Like humans, they will be judged on the Day of Judgment, determining whether they will enter paradise or hell based on their actions. An aswang is a cryptid in Filipino folklore. It is an inherently evil werewolf and vampire-like creature and is the subject of a wide variety of myths and stories. Spanish colonists noted that the aswang was the most feared among the mythical creatures of the Philippines, even in the 16th century. The myth of the aswang is well known throughout the Philippines, except in the Ilocos region, which is the only region that does not have an equivalent myth. They are shape-shifting creatures from Filipino folklore, often living as quiet, shy townspeople by day and transforming into animals like dogs, birds, or pigs at night. They are notorious for preying on unborn fetuses and small children, sometimes using long proboscises to suck them from wombs or homes. Aswangs are known for their speed, stealth, and confusing sounds, such as the tick-tick, which grows quieter as they approach their victim. Some aswangs replace their victims with doppelgangers made from plants, which later fall ill and die. They also have bloodshot eyes from staying up all night hunting for bodies at wakes. Eirik, a greedy young villager, ignored the warnings and sought the treasure buried in the tomb of Rolf the Fierce, a Viking warrior turned draugr. One night, he pried open the grave, his eyes glinting with greed as gold shimmered before him. But as he reached for the treasure, Rolf's decaying hand grabbed him. The draugr rose from the tomb, towering and malevolent, and swiftly crushed Eirik's life in its grasp. The villagers found Eirik's body the next morning, his face frozen in terror. No one ever dared to disturb Rolf's grave again. Draugr are animated corpses that retain a physical form, unlike many ghostly apparitions. They are not merely spirits but are physically present, often described as bloated or decayed with a corpse-like appearance. They possess immense physical strength and are often portrayed as incredibly powerful, capable of crushing their opponents or creating great destruction. They have the ability to change shape, sometimes transforming into animals such as seals, cats, or even a mist-like substance. This ability made them particularly dangerous and unpredictable. Many stories depict draugr as hoarders or protectors of valuable treasures, especially treasures buried with them in their graves. They would haunt burial sites, attacking those who disturbed their tombs. They are often malevolent, rising from the grave to torment the living, cause disease, or seek revenge on those they hold grudges against in life. Their presence is associated with an overwhelming sense of dread, death, and decay. Their mere proximity can bring about illness or madness in the living. To prevent a dead person from becoming a draugr, various rituals were often performed, such as sealing the grave with specific rites. If a draugr did rise from the grave, defeating it required extraordinary means, such as decapitating the body, burning it, or dragging it through the earth to sever its connection to the world. In the cursed village of Hallows End, an abandoned mansion was said to be home to an ancient ghoul that feasted on anyone foolish enough to enter. One night, three friends Lena, Mark, and Tom decided to explore the mansion, dismissing the local legends as nonsense. As they ventured deeper inside, the temperature dropped, and a sense of dread filled the air. Suddenly, from the shadows, the ghoul appeared, gaunt, skeletal, and impossibly fast. It attacked Tom, tearing into him with inhuman strength. Lena and Mark fled, smashing a window to escape. As they looked back, they saw the ghoul watching from the broken window, its glowing eyes promising it would wait for the next victim. Tom was never seen again, and the mansion remained cursed, its deadly secret hidden within. In folklore, a ghoul is a demon-like being associated with graveyards and the consumption of human flesh, originating from pre-Islamic Arabian religion. Ghouls are considered fouler than goblins and often dwell in cemeteries or uninhabited places. In Arabic tradition, a male ghoul is called a ghull, while a female is known as a ghulla or mother ghoul, who lures men into her lair to devour them. Some ghouls are depicted as desert-dwelling shapeshifters that can take on animal forms, particularly that of a hyena. They prey on unsuspecting individuals, including children, and are known to drink blood and eat the dead. The term ghoul also refers derogatorily to those who revel in death, such as gravediggers or grave robbers. In Western literature, ghouls have been portrayed as grave-robbing creatures devoid of specific shapes, with Edgar Allan Poe describing them as ambiguous beings. H.P. Lovecraft expanded on the ghoul mythos in stories like Pickman's Model, depicting them as a subterranean race that feeds on dead flesh, mutating into bestial humanoids. Lovecraft's vision has significantly shaped the modern concept of ghouls in American culture, portraying them as hideous yet not necessarily malicious, with a primary diet of human remains. In a quiet town, children feared the boogeyman, a shadowy figure that entered their rooms at night. One stormy night, brave Mia stayed up late to prove he was just a myth. At midnight, she heard a whisper, "Mia, come play." The closet creaked open, revealing glowing eyes. The boogeyman emerged, his twisted fingers reaching for her. "You shouldn't have stayed awake," he hissed. Mia screamed and ran, but the door slammed shut, trapping her in darkness. The next morning, her room was empty, and the boogeyman waited for his next victim. The bogeyman is a legendary creature deeply ingrained in the folklore of various cultures around the world. Often depicted as a sinister entity, the bogeyman is said to lurk in the shadows, preying on children who misbehave or wander off alone. While its appearance and behavior vary depending on the cultural context, the bogeyman typically embodies the fear of the unknown and serves as a cautionary figure to instill obedience and good behavior in children. The physical appearance of the bogeyman varies widely across different cultures and regions. It is often described as a tall, shadowy figure with glowing eyes, sharp claws, and a menacing aura. In some tales, the bogeyman is said to be covered in fur, while in others, it is depicted as a shapeless, amorphous entity that can blend seamlessly into its surroundings. Despite these variations, the common thread among all bogeyman legends is their ability to strike fear into the hearts of those who encounter them. A boo-hag is a mythical creature from Gullah folklore, reflecting the syncretic beliefs of the Gullah or Hoodoo cultures. The legend gained prominence through the writings of Jacob Stroyer, who was born enslaved in South Carolina in 1849. He described how enslaved people believed that witches, referred to as old hags or jack-lanterns, were often individuals they interacted with daily. According to Stroyer's accounts, after supper, enslaved people would gather in their cabins and observe distant lights, attributing them to hags. They would speculate on the identity of these hags, often linking them to known individuals from their community. The belief was that these witches could transform into humans to deceive and bewitch others before reverting to their true forms at night. Enslaved people also believed that hags could ride on humans like horses, using their own spittle as a bridle while they slept. To protect themselves from boo-hags, they sprinkled a mixture of cayenne pepper and salt around their living spaces, especially if they didn't have a Bible. This mixture served as a defense against the supernatural beings, highlighting the blend of spiritual beliefs and protective practices in Gullah culture. In a quiet suburban home, Sarah and Mark lay in bed one night, feeling an unsettling chill. Suddenly, Sarah awoke to a low, scraping sound at the foot of the bed. Turning slowly, she froze in terror. There sat the rake, its emaciated form and sunken eyes staring back at her. Before she could scream, the creature lunged at Mark, dragging him into darkness. Sarah's heart raced as she watched helplessly, the room filled with the sound of a struggle that ended too quickly. The rake returned to its place, eyes gleaming with malice. With a final chilling gaze, it vanished, leaving Mark lifeless beside her. As dawn broke, Sarah realized she would never sleep again, haunted by the creature that took her husband and the eyes that watched from the shadows. The rake is a mythical creature that originated from internet horror stories and urban legends. It is often described as a tall, emaciated humanoid with pale skin, sharp claws, and sunken eyes. The rake is known for its terrifying appearance and behavior, often lurking at the foot of beds, watching its victims while they sleep. According to the lore, the rake is believed to invade homes, preying on those who are vulnerable, especially children. It is associated with feelings of dread and fear, often leaving its victims in a state of terror and paranoia. The creature has become a popular figure in creepypasta stories and horror fiction, embodying the fear of the unknown and the horrors that may lurk in the dark. Nalusa Falaya is a mythical creature from Choctaw folklore. Often referred to as the long black thing or long black creature, it is described as a tall, shadowy figure that lurks in the woods and is known for its malevolent nature. According to the legends, Nalusa Falaya is said to have a long, serpentine body and can shapeshift, making it a fearsome presence in the stories told by the Choctaw people. It is believed to haunt those who venture too far into the wilderness, often preying on lost travelers or those who stray from safety. The creature serves as a cautionary tale, embodying the fears of the unknown and the dangers of the wilderness, emphasizing the importance of staying close to home and respecting nature. Emily loved urban legends, especially the tale of Slenderman. One night, while exploring an abandoned building with friends, she wandered off to take photos in the dark. In a shadowy room, she felt a chill and turned to see Slenderman, his tall, featureless figure looming in the corner. Fear gripped her as she snapped a photo, but when the flash faded, he was gone. Rushing back to her friends, she shared her encounter, but they laughed it off. Checking her phone later, Emily gasped. The last photo showed Slenderman looming behind her, menacing and clear. The next morning, her friends received a chilling text from her, "I can't find my way out." They hurried back, but Emily was missing. All they found was her phone, the haunting photo a reminder of the darkness that had taken her. Slenderman is a fictional entity created on June 10, 2009, on the Something Awful forum, initially depicted as a tall, thin figure with long, tentacle-like arms and a featureless face. His appearance and motives vary across stories, but he often haunts forests and abandoned places, inducing a condition known as slender sickness, characterized by paranoia and nightmares. Early narratives targeted children, suggesting that investigating Slenderman could attract his attention. The character gained popularity through creepypasta stories and was further developed in the web series Marble Hornets, which introduced the concept of proxies, humans manipulated by Slenderman. The mythology expanded with various fan contributions, incorporating elements from horror fiction, including influences from H.P. Lovecraft. In 2014, the Slenderman concept led to a real-life incident in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where two girls stabbed a classmate, claiming they wanted to become his proxies. This shocking event sparked moral panic over the influence of internet horror on youth, leading to increased concern among parents about the impact of such stories. The hide-behind is a nocturnal fearsome critter from American folklore that preys upon humans that wander the woods, and was blamed for the disappearances of early loggers when they failed to return to camp. As its name suggests, the hide-behind is said to be able to conceal itself. When an observer attempts to look directly at it, the creature quickly hides behind an object or behind the observer and therefore cannot be directly seen. The hide-behind supposedly uses this ability to stalk human prey without being observed and to attack them without warning. Said victims, including lumberjacks and others who frequent the forests, are then dragged back to the creature's lair to be devoured. The creature subsists chiefly upon the intestines of its victim and has a severe aversion to alcohol, which is therefore considered a sufficient repellent. Tales of the hide-behind may have been used as an explanation of strange noises in the forest at night. Early accounts describe hide-behinds as large, powerful animals, despite the fact that no one was able to see them. The Enfield Horror is a bizarre creature encountered in Enfield, Illinois, in 1973, sparking a wave of fear in the small town. The series of events began on April 25, when young Greg Garrett reported being attacked by a strange beast with 3 legs, grayish skin, short claws, and red eyes. After Greg's encounter, Henry McDaniel and his family experienced a terrifying confrontation with the same creature that attempted to break into their home. Henry described the entity as standing about 4.5 feet tall with large pink eyes and a short body. When he shot at the creature, it hissed and escaped in 3 extraordinary leaps. Investigating authorities found only scratches on the McDaniel home and unusual 6-toed prints in the yard on May 6. Henry spotted the creature again, this time on the railroad tracks, but chose not to engage it. The media soon descended on Enfield, heightening local fears. Sheriff Roy Pochette Jr. warned McDaniel to stop inciting panic. Meanwhile, groups of amateur monster hunters began searching the area, with some claiming to encounter a hairy version of the creature. A radio news director, Rick Rainbow, recorded the monster's disturbing scream. Cryptozoologist Loren Coleman investigated the sightings, noting similarities to other legendary creatures. Speculations arose about the Enfield horror's origins, with some linking it to UFO sightings and others suggesting a demonic nature. Interestingly, a similar creature, the Mt. Vernon monster, had terrorized a nearby village in the early 40s. The Enfield horror has not been sighted in decades, leading to theories about its periodic appearances. Despite its absence, the creature remains a part of local lore, possibly still lurking in the shadows, waiting for another chance to frighten residents. The knocker, also known as Tomahawk knocker in the United States, is a mythical gnome-like creature from Cornish and Devon folklore. Similar to the Welsh goblin and Irish leprechaun, they are described as small beings, about 2 feet tall, with large heads, long arms, wrinkled skin, and white whiskers. They wear tiny miners' outfits and are known for their playful mischief, such as stealing tools and food from miners. In Cornish mining culture, these creatures were believed to guide miners to rich tin veins. However, as mining transitioned from family operations to larger industrial enterprises, knockers took on a more protective role, knocking on mine walls to warn of potential collapses. While generally seen as benevolent, they are also mischievous, often hiding tools or extinguishing candles. Some interpretations suggest that knockers are the spirits of Jewish miners from the 11th and 12th centuries, while others view them as the souls of those who died in the mines. Despite their trickster nature, they are primarily considered good-natured helpers for miners in Cornish folklore. On a moonless night, Sarah sat alone in her dimly lit living room. A sudden knock at the door startled her. Peering through the peephole, she saw a pale child with unnaturally black eyes. An unsettling chill crept over her as more children emerged from the darkness, all sharing that haunting gaze. A sense of dread filled the air, and she locked the door, heart racing. The lights flickered, and whispers echoed around her, growing louder. Suddenly, a cold rush swept through the room. Turning slowly, she faced the first child, its eyes glinting with a terrifying hunger. Escape was no longer an option. The night had come alive with something she could not understand. Black-eyed children are eerie figures with ghostly pale skin and completely black eyes, often approaching individuals to ask for seemingly harmless favors, like entering a home or a car. This phenomenon is thought to require an invitation, leading some to speculate they might be vampires, while others suggest they are demonically possessed children or human-alien hybrids. The legend gained traction from Texas reporter Brian Bethel's 1998 accounts of encounters in Abilene and Portland, which sparked interest in this urban legend. Typically described as having corpse-like skin, black-eyed children are usually between 6 and 16 years old. They tend to stalk individuals who are aware of their existence and often appear alone, primarily at night. Their speech is monotone, and they can induce overwhelming fear in their victims. Despite this fear, victims often feel compelled to help them, even when internally warned against it. Accounts indicate that they request mundane things, like rides or phone calls, but always seek permission to enter. After such encounters, many report experiencing bad luck, including health issues or accidents. Uniquely, victims often perceive the children, while others around them do not, leading to further isolation and unease. The Alp is a mythical creature from German folklore, often described as a male, gnome-like being with pale skin and shape-shifting abilities. Traditionally, the Alp is associated with nightmares, as it is believed to sit on the chest of sleepers, causing a sensation known as alpdruk, or elf pressure. This phenomenon is thought to explain sleep paralysis and night terrors, with victims unable to move under the alp's weight. The creature may also exhibit vampiric traits, preferring the blood of men and children, particularly breast milk from women. Elves in German folklore often deceive or bewilder individuals, and the alp shares this mischievous nature, engaging in acts like souring milk and tangling hair. Over time, the perception of the alp shifted to a more demonic being, sometimes viewed as the spirit of a deceased relative. The alp can be created from specific circumstances surrounding childbirth or may return as a spirit to torment families. Protective measures against the alp include various charms and rituals, like placing a broomstick under a pillow or hanging iron horseshoes. If caught, it can be tricked into leaving by asking it to return later. The alp's magical hat, known as a tarn cape, grants it invisibility, and it is said to offer rewards for its return if lost. Ultimately, the alp embodies a blend of terror and mischief in folklore, remaining an enduring figure of nightmare and caution. The Nachtkrapp is a terrifying, mythical sea demon from Arcadian folklore, often described as a horse-like creature that wreaks havoc when it ventures onto land. Its origins can be traced to 16th century Latin manuscripts, and its lore was influenced by both Norse and Celtic traditions. The Nachtkrapp is considered the most malevolent of all Scottish island demons, with no redeeming qualities. Islanders feared even speaking its name, and it was believed to possess the power to cause droughts, plague, and illness. When on land, the Nachtkrapp's appearance is grotesque and gruesome. It has a horse's body with a man's torso fused onto its back, long arms that can reach the ground, and no skin. Its exposed muscles, yellow veins, and black blood are visible, while its equine head features a giant, gaping mouth that emits toxic fumes and a burning red eye. Some tales claim the monster has two heads, while others describe only one human-like head with a pig-like snout. The Nachtkrapp's breath was believed to destroy crops and sicken livestock, and it was blamed for spreading the deadly mortashine disease among horses. The creature's fury was particularly provoked by seaweed burning, which created soda ash, a vital product for treating soil and later used in soap and glass making. The noxious fumes angered the Nachtkrapp, leading to outbreaks of disease, dead cattle, and ruined crops. Despite its fearsome nature, the Nachtkrapp had a weakness: it could not cross fresh running water. This allowed people to escape by crossing streams. According to one tale, a man named Tamas survived an encounter by splashing the creature with water and jumping over a freshwater channel. In Arcadian mythology, only the Mythero, the sea, an ancient sea spirit, could control the Nachtkrapp, keeping it confined during the summer months. The creature's mythical origins likely combine Norse and Celtic influences, rooted in the islanders' need to explain natural disasters and other unexplainable misfortunes. In Native American legends, a skinwalker is a person with the supernatural ability to transform into any animal, often without wearing the animal's pelt as traditionally required. Among the Navajo, skinwalkers, or Leshy, are witches who gain their powers by breaking severe cultural taboos, such as murder or incest. Though they can transform into various animals, they are most often seen as coyotes, wolves, or birds. Some Navajo believe that skinwalkers can steal people's faces or paralyze them with fear. Skinwalkers gain strength from fear and can lure victims by imitating familiar voices or sounds. They are often associated with evil, using spells and charms like corpse dust or human bone fragments to harm their victims. Identifying a skinwalker can be challenging, but they are said to have glowing eyes, even in human form, and move unnaturally in animal form. Navajos avoid discussing skinwalkers due to the belief that speaking their name attracts them. Despite efforts to hunt skinwalkers, they are rarely caught, as they can deceive or escape pursuers. The only way to kill a skinwalker is by shooting them in the neck with a bullet dipped in white ash. Unlike healers or medicine men, who use their powers for good, skinwalkers seek only to harm and curse others. The Mad Gasser of Mattoon was first reported in 1944 when residents of Mattoon, Illinois, experienced strange gas attacks. The first major report came from Mr. and Mrs. Bert Kearney, who described a tall, thin man in dark clothes spraying gas with a flit gun. Over the next few days, several similar incidents occurred, with victims reporting a strong odor, nausea, weakness, and even temporary paralysis. Aline Kearney described smelling a sweet odor before losing feeling in her legs, and her husband saw a prowler near their home. Further attacks followed, with one victim, Beulah Cordes, becoming violently ill after smelling a mysterious cloth left on her porch. Some speculated that the gasser used the cloth to incapacitate her family dog. Despite numerous reports, police found no solid evidence of a prowler. Theories about the gasser's identity included mass hysteria, industrial pollution, or a real assailant. Some officials believed residents were panicking after hearing reports of the gasser, while others suggested toxic fumes from nearby factories might be responsible. However, local factories denied any significant chemical leaks. Later studies, including those published in psychology journals, supported the idea of mass hysteria, but some researchers believe there may have been a real attacker behind at least some of the incidents. The mad gasser remains an unsolved mystery.